The second thing we're going to want to start is to really caramelize the onions for the chopped liver and to make the onion jam, because both of those take a really, really long time. So I guess I'll start by cutting the onions.
Okay, and this is just a regular yellow onion?
I like to mix them up. So we have a nice sweet Vidalia onion, and then we have some large Spanish onions.
Cool. And these probably caramelize a little better because they have more sugar?
Exactly. So the higher the sugar, the better they will caramelize. Exactly.
Great.
I like to caramelize my onions in schmaltz. So schmaltz is rendered chicken fat. Definitely a staple in old world Jewish cooking.
Definitely, and I find to be an underutilized ingredient in general.
Absolutely. So, it's really, really good. It's packed with flavor. It's got a pretty high smoking point. You could even fry in it.
Oh, cool.
So, as you could see, I definitely kind of piled this in.
Yeah.
You don't really want a lot of surface area.
That's interesting. Why is that?
You want the onions to cook out the water so that the sugar is being drawn out, and then what's happening is the sugars are slowly caramelizing. If you caramelize sugar, onions or anything with sugar, too fast, it could burn, and it's not going to be quite as sweet, and you're really going to lose that depth of flavor. So you want to go really, really nice and slow.
Great.
As far as the onion jam, we're going to have a very similar way of cooking it, where we're going to take schmaltz.
More schmaltz. Now, if I can't make my own schmaltz, where can you buy this?
You kind of have to find a butcher.
Okay.
Who has it, but it is a little bit hard to come by. So this is actually some ground pastrami.
Cool, lots of flavor in there.
Lots of flavor. So that also we're gonna go really nice and slow. And I'm just gonna dice a couple more onions.
Okay, great.
You definitely want to get these things going first.
Because they take a long time.
Exactly.
You don't want to rush them.
Definitely don't want to rush them.
It's like you said, they'll burn.
We cook this jam. I actually cooked some yesterday at the restaurant just to see how long it actually takes, and it does take about 6 hours on the stove.
Really?
Yeah.
So no kidding, we don't have time for that today.
We don't have time for that, unless you guys want to hang out for 6 minutes.
I'll be here.
So we're just going to let that render out a little bit. I'm going to put these onions off to the side.
Okay.
So while that's happening, I'm going to sear my livers.
So you have some kind of seasoning here. Is that caraway seed?
Exactly. So very good. So this is actually salted overnight or cured overnight. We actually weigh it out. We do 2% of the weight in salt and 3% of the weight in caraway seed.
Wow.
And this draws out a little bit of the moisture, so you get a nice sear on it. And it also imparts that rye bread flavor into it, because caraway is pretty synonymous with rye bread.
You don't really see it in too many other applications.
Exactly. So we're gonna add a little bit of oil to the pan, and I'm actually gonna add a little bit of schmaltz too.
Why not? A little extra schmaltz never hurt anybody.
Watch out, it might splatter a little bit.
Are we cooking these all the way through, or are we just trying to sear the outsides?
It's okay if they're cooked through, and they'll be fine.
All right. And they're pretty much already seasoned because you kind of salted them overnight.
Exactly. So they're already salted. They're going to be ready to go. In the meantime, we could see this short rib is nice and rendered. It smells really, really good. We're going to add our onion to it, and we'll let that cook for a hot second.
So you kind of know they're ready to flip when they easily come up?
Yeah, and also you could see the edges sort of are starting to turn gray.
Right.
Which means that it's cooking, and that's fine. We're just gonna, once it's here, we're just gonna kind of kiss the other side. So you get a little bit of browning on there, very, very nice.
And they look great.
And you can actually just eat these as they are.
Oh, that caramelization, they look delicious.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. We're gonna drain the livers. And we're actually gonna wanna get these cool. So they could either sit out at room temp, or you could throw them in the fridge. Doesn't really matter. All right, so the onions and the pastrami are cooking down. We are gonna take a little bit of vinegar to deglaze.
I love the flavor of sherry vinegar too.
It's so good. Sherry vinegar and honey and pastrami and onions is pretty ridiculous.
Can't say I've ever had it with pastrami.
Well, there you go.
And that's gonna make it all kind of jammy and
good. So what's gonna happen is the vinegar and the honey are gonna cook out. The vinegar is gonna cook out, the honey is gonna start to caramelize, along with the onions. And like I said, this is gonna go on really, really low heat for anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, however nice you want to make it.
So we just let that hang out. Does it need to be stirred or?
Exactly, just kind of let it hang out.
Cool.
So this is our Jewish style rye bread that we have at the restaurant.
So interesting.
Yeah, so we actually have these molds that bake it into a round, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I think.
Is that traditional?
It is not. It's not at all. But it's really, really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut. You're going to cut the end off.
Okay.
And then you're going to cut. I call them 2 by 2. So you're going to cut.
Just like double thick.
Exactly. So you're going to cut like almost like Texas toast,
Okay.
and then we're going to brush it with some schmaltz, and then we are going to griddle it.
Yum.
All right. I'm going to process the chopped liver. So I'm going to grab my caramelized onions. I got my liver right here. Okay. So we're going to take 2 or 3 hard-boiled eggs. We're going to take our chicken stock and some schmaltz. We're also going to grab a little bit of our sherry vinegar. All right,
and this is all going to get blended together?
So there's actually 2 steps to this. So first, we're going to put it into the food processor. And then cool that down just to homogenize it and break it down.
All right.
And like I said, you can eat it like that. Like that's like pretty classic chopped liver.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move it over to the blender and whip it into, actually, it's going to turn into a liquid. And then overnight, or in a couple hours, it will set and turn into a nice mousse from all the protein.
So it has to be cold?
It definitely has to be cold. Okay. And even once it's cold, it then has to like set up.
And I'm going to spread some schmaltz.
You could spread
on
some
this bread.
schmaltz.
Great.
And then we're going to build it.
There you go.
Okay, so I got my caramelized onions in here.
They're super caramelized too. They
Yeah.
take about 6 hours also?
We actually like to, they could take up to 12 hours.
Wow.
So, I mean, you know, we have a lot of time during the day to sort of slow cook things. Now that I've got everything in there. Turn that on. So now you basically have some like what appears to be chopped liver. Once we add it into the blender, we're going to add our liquids, our chicken stock, and our vinegar.
Okay.
To sort of help it get going. So you want to add a little bit of chicken stock to the bottom. And since it's all going to be like nice and emulsified, the chicken stock will actually help it become lighter. And we're going to literally go right into the blender.
So you really just can't get it fine enough in the food processor? You have to go with the blender?
Yeah, you have to go to the blender, and I tell the cooks when they're making this to puree it until it gets warm from friction, which sounds crazy.
Oh, wow.
But it's the only way.
So just really let it go.
Yeah, so we're going to turn it on. So now we're moving. Oh, perfect. So look at that. You did it perfectly.
Griddle the bread?
You griddle the bread.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's going to go from the blender into this chinois.
So even after you already blended it, you're going to strain it again.
Exactly, because really what we want is just like the pureed goodness that's in here. It seems
Silky
really
smooth.
crazy, but it's a pretty awesome technique. And you know, we're also like, we're not really adding any cream or butter to, because we don't really want to mellow out the taste. So we're just going to push it through the chinois. So you got some nice brown edges. I actually just turn the heat off, and we'll just let it ride on there.
Great.
But that's some beautiful griddled bread. We're going to now build the liver plate. So we're going to take some of our onion jam that we've made so nicely. Just kind of put that on the bottom of the plate.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really good. These are some onion petals that we've soaked in ice water for 30 minutes. And then we soak them overnight in vinegar and water and salt.
Why do you soak them in water first? Does that kind of cut that real harsh oniony taste?
Exactly, it cuts out the oniony taste. And what you're left with is like not like a super pickled onion, but just like a palate cleanser.
Cool.
So then we're gonna take the liver that's like really nice and set up. It's really, really moussey.
Oh, look how creamy that is.
I know, you just put a nice piece over there. Grab some chives.
The bread looks great.
Awesome. You can actually take 2 pieces of bread and put it right on the plate over there.
Right here?
Perfect. And then we'll just finish it with a little bit of salt on top.
Gorgeous.
There you go.
Love it.